Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to bring you guys a 1-month update of my balcony garden for 2021. Now, if you guys just came across this video and you haven't seen any of my other London balcony garden videos before, hello, hi, I'm Anika and I am an American living in London and I absolutely love gardening on my London balcony garden. I have done a number of videos from last year as well as this year all about my tips and tricks of how to garden on your balconies. So if you guys want to check out those videos and you want to see those, I will link it up in the cards right now for you as well as down in the description of this video. So in today's video, I want to give you guys a 1-month update of sowing seeds indoors. So my last video that I did on my London balcony garden, I was planting my seeds indoors for the first time. So I was sowing all my different vegetable plants indoors and they were just seeds. And now 1 month later, they are growing and I want to give you guys a quick update as to some tips and tricks of what's worked, what hasn't worked, which plants are growing, which ones are not, what's my sun exposure like, what's the water like. I will share all my tips and tricks, so make sure you stick around until the end of the video. So just an FYI, all of my plants are sitting inside, but right next to my balcony window, and they get about 4 to 5 hours of sun every single morning because it is east facing. So they are getting some sun, but not that much sun. And also because the UK is super cloudy, and anyone who lives in London will know that we don't get that much direct sunlight, but they are getting enough, which is just enough to get started with a balcony garden. So as you guys can see here, these are some of my little plants that I have to share with you guys, and these started from seed. And I cannot believe, look, they're growing so much in just 1 month. Honestly, it's amazing to see. And if you guys want to see exactly which plants and which vegetables I have planted this year in my London balcony garden, I have done an entire video of all the seeds I am planting, and I will link that up in the cards right now for you guys to check out as well as down in the description. But let's first jump into which plants are growing and which ones are not and how far they're growing, and yeah, just some initial first 1 month updates. So the first plant that I have to say that grew the fastest is my pak choi, which is a vegetable that you can grow. It's an Asian vegetable. So usually you use this in stir fries or any sort of Asian cooking, and they grew so quickly. I couldn't believe it. They grew in like a week. I already seen them growing. So I am going to actually have to transplant these probably pretty soon. And if you guys want to see that, please make sure you subscribe and stick around for future videos because I will be moving these into larger pots in the next video. The next plants that grew really quickly are my tomatoes. You can see here, these are some of my tomatoes, and I can't believe how quickly these have grown. Again, 1 month. These started from seeds. Can you guys believe that? Oh my gosh. Anyways, this has been 1 month and my tomatoes are growing so quickly, which is awesome to see. Now, another super fast vegetable started growing really quickly are my red onions. They honestly sprouted up like crazy. I can't believe how much they're growing. I'm probably actually going to have to transplant them into another bigger pot so they can get bigger this year, but they grew immediately. Oh my gosh, they were just like, woo! Right away, I saw them grow. Now, I have to say my peppers are probably the slowest growing this year. They get the same amount of sun and the same amount of water as my tomatoes, and they're in the same pots. But I have to say they took a lot longer for them to actually sprout up and to start to grow their leaves. And yeah, I don't know what the deal is, but this year, for some reason, my peppers are growing much slower than my tomatoes, and some of them haven't even grown yet. And that's totally okay, by the way. So when you are growing different vegetables on your balcony garden, just know that when you are growing different types of vegetables, some of them might actually sprout up way faster than others. And also some might not sprout at all, which is also totally okay. Some seeds are done. So don't get disheartened if you don't see growth right away. I have to say with some of my peppers, even last year, when I put them outside and they got a lot more sun, they were way happier and they grew a lot faster. But tomatoes tend to grow up really quickly and they tend to like sprout really quickly. But I have to say my peppers this year are growing quite slowly. And one thing that I've grown this year that definitely hasn't grown are my strawberries, and that is just how strawberries work. So I tried growing strawberries last year and it wasn't successful, so I'm trying again this year. But one thing I have learned from last year until this year is that strawberries take years. Like they sometimes grow and they don't actually produce any fruit for years. Like it really is like a long haul with strawberries. So I have planted them in pots. They are indoors, they are warm, they're getting the same amount of sunlight as all my other plants, but I have to say I haven't seen any sprouts yet there. So I'm not giving up just yet, but it might take a little bit longer for strawberries to grow. So another thing that I mentioned is that because the plants are only getting east-facing sun in the mornings, you can see here that they're naturally tilting towards the sun right now, and they're always going to try to reach for the sun. That's what all plants do. So what I would recommend is when you are planting indoors and you only have one window where the light's coming in and it's not all day, I would recommend rotating this occasionally. So now when I put this back by my window in the next few days, I will see my plants actually start to grow more to the right because they are going to start reaching for that sunlight. So when you are sowing plants indoors and you are making a vegetable garden and you're starting it indoors from seed, always keep rotating them. It's so important, especially when you are gardening on a balcony. You're never going to have sun all the time, unless you're a super lucky person and you have a south-facing balcony, which, oh my gosh, amazing. You're gonna have sun all day and all afternoon. But for some of us that have northeast-facing balconies like mine, or if you have an east-facing or a west-facing balcony, what's gonna happen is your plants are naturally gonna start to tilt towards the sun, and you're gonna need to rotate them. So this is gonna be a tip that you should use all throughout your balcony gardening experience is even when they're inside or they're outside, you're gonna wanna rotate the pots so that the plants can always reach for the sun, and that actually makes the plant way stronger. So the actual stem and the roots, when they're always being rotated towards the sun, they're gonna wanna move towards the sun, and that's just gonna make them so much stronger. Now, let's talk about watering. How often do I actually water all of my seeds and my pots and my vegetables? So I have to say, I probably water them maybe once a week right now, so it's not that much. And to be honest, you shouldn't be over watering when they're in the seed state or when they don't have any fruit on the plant yet. You want to make sure the soil is moist but not super wet. If it's so wet, it's actually going to cause root rot, and it's going to end up, your plants are never going to be successful because it's going to be way too wet and way too moist. So I would say watering about once a week is probably enough depending on how much sun your plants are getting. Also, make sure all of the pots have drainage holes at the bottom because you're gonna wanna make sure that water isn't held into that pot, because if it is held into the pot, again, you're gonna end up with root rot, way too much water, way too much moisture in your dirt, and it's just not gonna be healthy for your plants at all. Another thing that I found super helpful this year is I got a capillary mat, and that is what is helping with the roots and also making sure the soil is always moist. So in my previous video where I showed all the things I bought for my London balcony garden this year, I actually bought a tray that has a mat in it. It's a capillary mat. And what it does is it absorbs the water and it holds the water and it feeds the water back through the bottom of the pot, which is so important because the roots are always searching for water, but they don't always need it from the top because sometimes when you overwater from the top, you might be damaging your plants. So anyways, I would highly recommend getting a capillary mat and then getting some sort of tray and making sure the capillary mat is placed in that tray and then your pots are in that tray and then watering the capillary mat rather than watering the plants directly. I've seen so much success with that this year. Remember that when you are growing from seed, the seed is gonna want to have a warm and moist environment in order to grow and make sure that they thrive. So yeah, the mat really helps. I know for some people they use like some sort of dome or plastic cover in order to make sure that everything stays nice and warm. But for me personally, because I have an east and northeast facing balcony, it isn't ever warm enough actually in those enclosed cases. So actually it caused moisture issues and rot. And I realized that actually keeping it open and having a capillary mat on the bottom and then keeping the pots on top of that is way better for my plants. If you guys are interested in any of the products I'm talking about, whether it's the pots or the capillary mats or, the seeds that I am planting this year, I will make sure to list all the products I am talking about in the description of this video. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you are getting value from my London balcony garden videos. Oh, another thing for you guys to know, at this point, I am not using any fertilizer. At this point, all it has been is compost and water. That's it. I planted the seeds in small pots and I used compost soil, really good compost soil. And then I used water every week to make sure that they actually start to, grow. But it's way too early to be using fertilizer. That'll happen once you move them outdoors. So right now, just make sure you have really good compost as well as good pots, good drainage, and a capillary mat. And I'm sure you guys will grow amazing seeds to plants. So guys, it is still way too cold in April to move my plants outdoors onto the balcony because in London it is sunnier now, and we did have daylight savings change, and so there is way more sun throughout the day, but it is still freezing outside. So taking my plants outside right now would be detrimental and they'd end up getting frost and dying. So I will probably not be doing that for another month. But I wanted to talk to you guys also about transplanting. So when you start growing any sort of seed from a little pot like I have, which is really important. You need to start in a small pot so that the soil stays warm so that the seed can germinate and then, create this beautiful little plant. But the one thing you will see on this plant is there's two different types of leaves. So you can see here, these are the first leaves. And then you can see these are the second tier of leaves. And this is so important. So you are going to want to move this into a bigger pot to give it space for roots once you see those second tier of leaves. So this is gonna give your plant the opportunity to grow bigger, but now that it's already kind of like, it's no longer a seed, it's now a plant, it is time to actually transplant this because it has two sets of leaves. When you first plant any vegetable, so whether it's peppers, tomatoes, anything, they're all gonna have the same type of leaf. They're all gonna have what we call these first little leaves. And that's totally fine because that's all plants. When they start to grow and they have those second leaves, that is super important to realize that now this plant probably has enough of a root structure so that you can plant it into a bigger pot so that it can grow even bigger. So I am probably gonna be doing that in my next video. So make sure you guys join my YouTube family and smash that subscribe button so you guys can watch all the steps of my balcony garden this year and follow along. Anyways, guys, that was my quick 1 month update. If you guys have any questions about balcony gardening or growing vegetables on your balcony that I didn't answer in this video or any of my other videos, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer as many as I can. In the next video, I will be showing you guys how to transplant from smaller pots into larger pots so that your plants can grow even stronger and bigger and have a much stronger root structure for transplanting outside. It's so important to follow these steps when you are planting indoors, especially if you're in a climate like the UK where you have to plant indoors. So I will be showing you guys step by step, every single step of my London balcony garden this year. So make sure you guys subscribe and turn on that bell notification so you know exactly when I upload my next video. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are in the world, and I hope to catch you guys in my next gardening video. Good luck on your gardens, and bye for now.